All right, everybody, welcome back. We're getting close to the conclusion of the Laura Palmer case. We've got this episode I'm doing right now, and episode 9, and then we're all done with that part of the show. So it's been a wild ride so far, that's for sure. And then after that, we'll start into the Wyndham Earl case saga storyline, whatever you want to call it, and I'll have to do some, obviously, be some refreshing for my own memory of all that goes on in the this quote unquote second half of the show, to see what exactly there is. But I'm going to anticipate that the reviews will get shorter, merely because I'm going to gloss over the comedic stuff and some of the side stories that are really irrelevant to the overall picture. Because, like I said, the quality does start to dip. As we get into the post episode 9 and onward towards the end. Though the very last episode of season 2 of the original run is amazing. So we won't go out with a whimper, so to speak, when it comes to that. But yeah, I do anticipate that my reviews will just get shorter, just because I'll be able to cover the important stuff, and I won't have to spend that much time on the comedic stuff. Though there are a few parts which are actually funny, and I might comment on them a little bit. Yeah, so just a heads up, after this one we'll get one more, and then that being episode 9, and that review will be up tomorrow. And then I may make it a little bit longer, or I may just make a separate side or video or whatever, just talking about that part of the show from episode 1 of season 1 to episode 9 of season 2, is kind of a reflection or look back on it, and then move on. Because I did a video before I started the reviews, which kind of gave my overall impression of the show, but I made sure not to have any spoilers in it or anything like that. So now that I've done these videos, and you guys have watched the show up to the conclusion of the Laura Palmer case, I can go ahead and use all of the spoilers and all that stuff, when I do a kind of a review reflection on that whole part. So, but I will try and sit down and write something out, so I don't just kind of meander around and make it way too long. Because that can kind of get annoying if I'm not getting to a point. But yeah, I'd like to do that. Because it's a unique experience, a unique cultural experience, and I was alive, when it was officially in the mainstream, in the public mind, the public consciousness, when it actually was brand new. So and if for those of you that are younger, that or maybe in your 20s or whatever, and you were watching it on Netflix or whatever, so it's just a different I guess impression it might have made on me, since I was real young. And I had to rewatch it later, because I didn't remember everything about it when I was a kid. So anyway, let's get to episode 8, shall we? All right, the episode begins with an exterior shot of the Palmer home. It always kind of reminded me of like a scaled down version of the house in Amityville Horror for some reason in that shot. Maybe it's just me. We hear Maddie scream before she got her face introduced to the wall by Bob/Leland, and then we shift to a morning shot of the same exterior. The camera focuses in on Laura's photos from both her her prom or homecoming queen photo to when she was a child. Then we see a bunch of golf balls and tees on the couch, and I guess apparently Leland thought it was a good idea to practice his irons in the living room. I didn't see any net up, so I'm surprised. I don't know how he didn't break a window. And maybe Bob's when he's not killing and raping, he likes to get an 18 in every once in a while. Don and James stop by to see Maddie off to the bus station, but apparently she's already left, quote unquote, according to Leland. Sarah calls down to Leland, and then he exits the stage. And if I were to wager a guess at this point, just from observations of seeing everything and so far in the series, we remember Sarah's condition the night before when she was crawling down those steps and looking around and saw the pale, the white horse kind of appear and then kind of passed out, and then Leland's sitting there adjusting his tie. I would have wagered a guess that she was drugged somehow, and in order for her to be passed out cold while Bob did his handiwork. So yeah, we see Leland, or I'm going to probably go back and forth between saying Leland or Bob, but I'm making the assumption, or at least I will in a little bit, that Bob is either in control 100% of the time now, or he's kind of pulled back in the background, so he's kind of observing, but he can come to the forefront if he needs to. So we see that kind of expression cross his face as he's coming down the stairs, and he puts on a smile and sees Donna and James out before looking in the mirror, and look who's looking back at him, old Bob. So apparently he put Maddie's body in his golf bag, so I don't know if he had to fold her up or something. I'm not sure if she would fit, but anyway. And yeah, the episode name makes perfect sense with the scene because it's officially titled Drive with a Dead Girl. So yeah, can't get any more obvious than that when he's got a dead girl in his trunk. Yeah, it's a nice enough day. Why not drive with the top down? Jerry, I guess back from Japan, shows up to visit Ben in jail. I guess he's going to be his lawyer. And I guess that would make sense since Jerry's such a little weasel. He would seek a law degree. Yeah, and then the whole bunk beds with the two pervy kids, the younger Jerry and Ben, watching, I don't know, it was a babysitter or some neighbor girl dancing with a flashlight, and that stupid music. Yeah, that whole scene just annoyed the hell out of me, and I skip it. It's just like, ugh, those two losers. So apparently Lucy and Gwen have the same late 80s hairstyle. And if you have watched the Patrick Swayze movie Roadhouse, especially if you're a guy, the kind of the action movie, you'll recognize the actress that plays Gwen, though in the movie Roadhouse, she's a brunette and has shorter hair. She's one of the bartenders. Yeah, she has a not just a bit role in it. She's kind of one of the side supporting cast. All right, Dale's talking into his recorder as he and Harry, I guess, just checked in on the one-armed man who's staying in one of the rooms. He talks about him might being a shaman or something, but he has this great quote: "In our world, he's a shoe salesman and lives among the shadows." It's a great line to finish that part up. Yeah, and it looks like Leland is doing his best Fred Astaire impersonation in the lobby with his golf club, acting as a cane or a walking stick or whatever he might use as a prop. So yeah, before I go further, the big question here is who is in the driver's seat as far as Leland's mind is concerned. It may be Bob full time at this moment, and Bob's just putting on an act. Or it may actually be Leland himself doing the whole dance thing. You can't say for certain, just because we're at least until we get some more information later. But I'm more inclined to think Bob has taken over, basically after the murder, because given Maddie's body hasn't been disposed of yet, and he can't risk anybody discovering it and going back to Leland. So I think have the yeah, so we can see that the reaction to when Leland hears that they're going to be possibly placing the blame for Laura's murder on Ben, he goes around the corner and he starts, kind of laughing or snickering, kind of. And that's definitely Bob's reaction. Ray-wise, the the actor, his expressions are perfect. They're great when he's playing the possessed Leland. Those just kind of psycho look, the kind of the devious look. It's kind of mimicking how Frank Silva kind of does some of the expressions. So he's definitely wicked, to say the least. At the sheriff's station, Doc Hayward's taking some blood from Ben. Jerry pretends like he has any clue as what being a lawyer is. Dale reveals that he's basically a hack. He's been barred in several states from practicing. He graduated last in his class and basically puts him in his place. Let's see. Dale shows Ben Laura's diary. Dale reads the part where she specifically mentions Ben, and then he kind of starts to insinuate some things and kind of put forth, the scenario as, where Ben could have possibly been compelled to, commit the crime. They were having an affair and things got out of control, blah, blah, blah. Ben gets pretty upset over that. And they leave him there. And Jerry does a smart thing and tells his brother, to get a better lawyer. So, I would definitely agree. I think Jerry would probably have landed him in jail if he had defended him. So now we're over at the Johnsons, and we see that Bobby, who found the Giant's clue that Dale did not, is listening to it, and it's the cassette he found, and it's actually the recording of that scene far back, if you remember, where Leo pulls up in the Corvette to meet with Ben Horn. Ben Horn comments, bright red flashy sports car, great for a secret meeting, and then Leo shows that, old Bernard Renault got greased, and he's all rolled up in some burlap sack or something, and they talk about the mill fire. So apparently Leo wanted a little bit of insurance against Ben Horn screwing him over, even though he didn't anticipate that Hank Jennings was going to pull a dirty Harry on him. Bobby, if anything, is resourceful. He's going to do a little blackmailing, perhaps. Of course, he makes a bunch more promises to Shelley about, going into business for himself or whatever. Bunch of BS. And apparently Shelley is covered in whatever didn't find its way into Leo's pie hole. So, must be fun taking care of that. Norma's mom shows up at the Double R. Norma does not seem to be pleased to see Mother Dearest in the least. Her husband, or Norma's mother's new husband, Ernie, is as much of a putz as he looks. But don't worry, he's actually one of the few characters that goes into the post Laura Palmer part of season 2 that actually does provide some pretty good comic relief. He's got some scenes where he steals the show for a little bit, so he's definitely one of the brighter spots when it comes to the less serious stuff. The one-armed man is in one of the rooms, and apparently what's left of his arm starts kind of twitching about, so it must be Mike. Perhaps Mike's taking over, or sensing that maybe Leland's still in the Great Northern. Apparently he's being kept under police guard, but he still managed to escape, and so now our man's on the loose again. He's good at getting away when he needs to. Hank shows up late to work, gets scolded by Norma, yada yada yada. And Norma's mom oversees it and sees that it isn't marital bliss. Then back at the sheriff's station, Pete shows up at Harry's office. Pete mentions that Josie's gone. Harry, of course, already is aware of that. Looks like old Harry and Pete were both a little spellbound by Josie and her charms. And then when they both give a different description or name to this mysterious, ponytail guy that was there, she told both of them that, a different name for the guy. So they start to realize, something may be up. So something ain't quite right with this situation. Andy walks in to the sheriff's station, and apparently Andy doesn't realize how long it takes for a woman to have a child. So he assumes that the baby is Lucy's, and proceeds to pass out. So those are not too bright observation by Andy. Here we get a little comic relief in the next scene. Pete shows up to let Ben know that Catherine is still alive via tape recording. It's a little payback for the screw over that Josie and Ben perpetrated against Catherine. And it's always fun to watch Pete kind of in his element, kind of being a goofball and taunting Ben. And, you okay there, Benji? That was a good one. He gets under his skin, which is fine with me. So, yeah, Ben goes nuts and rips up that pillow, and Captain Comeover comes in to see while the feathers are flying around. And Leland is in his Cadillac, or whatever that is, Lincoln or something, singing some really lame-ass white person song. No idea. He's kind of, his musical tastes are stuck in, way in the past. Not paying much attention to the rules of the road, obviously. Ben, not Ben, Bob could be still in possession of Leland's mind, and, he may be the one that's doing all the driving and acting goofy. So yeah, I'm just, like I said, I'm just going to assume that Bob, at least, his presence is there, and he is controlling Leland to some degree. So if I say Leland, I'm assuming it's Leland with Bob, possessed him. He gets pulled over. Leland mentions something about the night Laura died that he just remembered, of course, about Ben leaving to make a phone call in another room, that his voice was raised and he was angry, and since, obviously I would imagine that Bob knew about the diary in Laura's room. He had to have read it, or Leland read it in possession of Bob, so that he was trying to get them to, on the mental track, to assume that Ben was referring to Laura's diary. And so he's helping to kind of push them towards Ben as the guilty party, and make his escape, or at least escape the blame. And I'm curious if I just that scene where Leland's got the golf club and he's kind of walking up behind Dale. I'm curious if he actually would have attacked him if Cooper had snooped around in the trunk of the car at all. Yeah, no, long story short, Lucy's sister is annoying as hell, and so yeah, shut up, Gwen. Exactly. Andy lets Lucy know that his sperms got better, and he assumes and he's the father, and Lucy's like, oh no. So maybe it's Andy, or we know of another gentleman that was intimate with Lucy, old Dick Tremaine. So typical soap opera stuff, but with a little bit of a humorous twist. Mike is brought in apparently to do his thing, like he did at the Great Northern, though he escaped. So they must have rounded him, wrangled him, got him back there. Says Bob is close, but is not here. Bob has been very close. So yeah, you would think. We know where Bob's at, but you'd think, if he doesn't recognize Ben as the host for Bob, as the parasite, that should be cut and dry. But of course, Harry jumps the gun and charges Ben. Dale says that he doesn't think Ben did it, because Dale's more in tune with his own kind of the supernatural, magical element to things, and that's because it's kind of, it's pretty much guided his whole way, but he's the one that's had the visions, where Harry is kind of relegated to the land of the mere mortals that don't have that kind of intuition or ability to perceive beyond the natural, I guess you could say. So for him, it's we got evidence. I'm I'm the sheriff, and I got to do my job, and so Ben is been formally charged. So over at Ben's business, the Great Northern, in the dining room, Norma, Hank, and Norma's mother and Ernie are dining, and once Norma and her mother go to use the ladies' room, Hank apparently, we see that Hank and Ernie apparently were cellmates in prison, or at least hung out in prison. I guess Ernie was a kind of a financial scammer, and Hank assumes that he's not, been reformed or, become a different person after getting out, and he's going to try to scam Norma's mom, who apparently has a little money. But Ernie claims that he's a changed man, and his nickname in jail was the Professor. So I don't know what his specialty was. I guess maybe he was a financial whiz or something. And yeah, if you notice, Hank has that stupid domino as part of that like bolo necktie or whatever. I mean, talk about tacky. I mean, God, what a schmuck. All right, we're heading down towards the end. Cherry pie for a midnight snack, why not? A little trivia for you. I don't know if I'd mentioned this earlier, but according to an interview I read a while back, Kyle MacLachlan absolutely hates cherry pie. So every time you see him eating some, he's suffering for his art. Audrey shows up, knock on the door. Dale gets his firearm out. He doesn't want to get plugged another few times by another lone gunman. Audrey shows up looking like she came straight out of Mad Men. I don't know what that haircut is all about. Now, apparently, Audrey's feeling a little bit of guilt about, coming to Dale to rat out her father on some of the stuff. Dale says, no, he's not ashamed of you. I think he is ashamed of Audrey. She's, or at least some of her behavior, because, I mean, come on, she's up until her, I don't even know if you even call it redemption from being drugged. She became kind of the damsel in distress, but it was still her stubbornness and her, and her inability to listen to anybody else, and she, just went up there and she got, I don't say she got what she deserved, but she put herself in a situation where something bad could have happened, and she was so too naive to realize what she'd gotten herself into. So I'm not completely back on the, I'm not on the poor Audrey, poor thing type train. No, hopefully she learns and doesn't pull that crap again. But yeah, she got herself into that mess. So yeah, she's been a bit of a brat, so I think her dad is a bit ashamed of her in some regard. And then apparently Audrey is to let Dale know that she wasn't getting down to business as one of the escorts there. Maybe she thinks I'm saving my virginity for you, Dale. It's like what she seems to be implying. But if you recall, Audrey was put in the friend zone a while back, so I think she's going to be a bit disappointed. Dale gets a call from, I'm assuming, is one of the guys from the sheriff's department, and we see soon after that Maddie's body has been found. It, like the giant said, it is happening again. Well, that's it for episode 8, folks. One more, and we're the Laura Palmer case is completed. How will it end? Well, we'll have to wait and see. This next episode is a doozy, and I think I will hope that you find it satisfying. I know I did, and we'll talk about it tomorrow. I'll get this one up sometime this evening, and then I'll have episode 9 up sometime Friday, probably morning or afternoon. So until then, folks, hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll talk to you later.